Christmas. It's supposed to be a time for family, warmth, and joy. But for me, Lita, it became the coldest, most heartbreaking day of the year. My son, David, was my world. After my husband passed away, it was just the two of us against everything. I worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, to put him through college, to help him buy his first home, to give him the life I never had. That home, the beautiful house he shared with his wife, Sarah, I made the down payment. I helped with the mortgage for years, a secret sacrifice I gladly made so they could build their dreams. Every year, I looked forward to Christmas, to seeing David, to holding my grandchildren. It was the one time I felt truly appreciated, truly loved. But this year, when I called David to confirm my travel plans, his voice was different, distant. "Mom," he said, a strange hesitation in his tone. You're not coming for Christmas, are you?" My heart sank. "What do you mean, David? Of course I'm coming. I already booked my flight." A long silence stretched between us, filled only with the faint sound of Sarah's laughter in the background. Then his words came, chilling me to the bone. "Mom, Sarah's family is coming. There's just no room. We weren't really expecting you." Not expecting me? His own mother, after everything I had done? The phone call ended, and I stood there, the receiver cold against my ear, the Christmas decorations around me suddenly mocking my loneliness. The betrayal was a physical ache, worse than any financial struggle I had ever faced. It wasn't just about Christmas. It was about being erased, discarded after years of endless sacrifice. And in that moment, as the festive lights blurred through my tears, a cold, hard resolve set in. They weren't expecting me for Christmas? Fine. But they certainly weren't expecting what I was about to do to their mortgage. The phone call ended, but the echo of his words, "We weren't expecting you," lingered in the quiet of my home, a brutal slap in the face. The sadness that had welled up in my throat was now turning into a cold, hard fury. They weren't just thoughtless, they were entitled. They had built their entire life, their beautiful home, their perfect family, on a foundation of my sacrifices, all while treating me like an afterthought. They were completely oblivious to the fact that their picture-perfect life was just an illusion I had quietly been supporting for years. What they didn't know was that I wasn't just a simple, hardworking mother. My late husband, a real estate investor, had left me with a substantial financial portfolio and a mind for business that I had kept hidden from everyone, especially my son. I had used those skills to manage their finances from the shadows, ensuring their mortgage payments were always on time, their bills always paid. That beautiful, brand new home they loved so much, I had made the massive down payment. I had been making the monthly payments from a hidden account for years, a secret act of love I now realized was a complete waste of time. My pain had a new focus. It was no longer about being forgotten. It was about making them remember. I went to my home office, my fingers flying across the keyboard with a deliberate, icy precision. I didn't just skip a payment. I went into their bank accounts and completely canceled the automatic transfer, erasing the entire payment schedule. The account was now dormant. It was as if the lifeline I had been providing them for years had never existed at all. The countdown to Christmas began, and with it, a series of text messages from my son and his wife. They were filled with pictures of a massive Christmas tree, a grand fireplace, and my grandchildren, all set in a home that, unbeknownst to them, was suddenly in jeopardy. They talked about how Sarah's family was arriving and how perfect everything was going to be. Not once did they ask about my Christmas plans or even offer a simple apology. Their casual cruelty was a constant reminder of why I was doing this. There was a moment of weakness, a brief second where I almost gave in. I looked at the photos of my grandchildren smiling, and the thought of my revenge hurting them was a physical ache in my chest. But then I remembered David's distant voice and Sarah's laughter in the background. I remembered their entitlement and their lack of even a moment's gratitude. That memory was all the fuel I needed. On Christmas Eve, just as the family was probably sitting down to their lavish dinner, my phone rang. It wasn't a text this time. It was David, his name flashing on the screen. The frantic ringing filled the silent room. I just stared at it, my heart pounding, a cold pit in my stomach. I knew what this was about. They had just discovered the first sign of what to come. I didn't answer. I just watched it ring and ring and ring. My son's name flashed on my phone, ringing relentlessly. I let it ring a few times, a silent act of defiance, before finally answering. My voice was calm, almost unnervingly so. "Hello, David," I said, a stark contrast to the sheer panic in his voice. He started talking a mile a minute, his words a jumbled mess of panic and confusion. "Mom, the bank called. The mortgage payment didn't go through. What happened? Is this some kind of mistake?" His voice was frantic, the perfect image of a man watching his world fall apart. I listened, letting him rant, letting him get it all out. When he finally stopped, gasping for air, I delivered the cold, hard truth. "It's not a mistake, David," I said. "I canceled it." A long silence stretched across the line, broken only by his sharp intake of breath. He couldn't comprehend it. The very foundation of his life, the home he was so proud of, was a lie. You canceled it? What are you talking about, Mom? I thought the payments were automatic." My turn came. This was the moment I had been waiting for, the moment to lay bare every single sacrifice I had made. "They were," I said, my voice heavy with years of unspoken emotion. "They were automatic because I was making them. For years. I made the down payment, and I've been covering the monthly mortgage for you and Sarah since you moved in." The truth hit him like a physical blow. His panic turned to rage. "Why would you do that, Mom? Why would you manipulate me like this? You had no right to do this. We worked hard for this house." His words were a crushing, final insult. He still didn't get it. He was so wrapped up in his own entitlement that he couldn't see the love and sacrifice behind my actions. "You worked hard?" I asked, my voice now laced with a cold fury. "While you were in college, I was working 2 jobs so you wouldn't have to take out loans. While you and Sarah were starting your perfect lives, I was using every last dime of my savings to make sure you had a home. You think you did this on your own? You think you just worked hard for this?" The words tumbled out, years of bottled up pain and resentment. And then came the final devastating betrayal. I told him about the phone calls I had received from Sarah's mother, all the times she had tried to convince me to cut him off, to let him stand on his own 2 feet. I told him how Sarah's family had been whispering in their ears, telling them that I was a burden and that they should finally cut the cord. "They told you not to expect me for Christmas, David," I said, the words hitting him with the full weight of their truth. They didn't want a single mother at their perfect family gathering. The line was dead silent. He had finally heard me. His entire life, his perfect marriage, his perfect Christmas, was a lie built on their manipulation and his own ignorance. I told him the mortgage payment was due in 3 days. "The ball is in your court, David," I said, my voice now calm again. "You decide which family you want to be a part of. Call me back when you've decided." I hung up the phone, leaving my son to a silent, chaotic Christmas Eve, his perfect world having just been shattered into a million pieces. The silence on the phone was the final, devastating blow. I hung up, leaving my son to face the reality of his perfect, beautiful lie. The revenge was in his hands now. He had to go back into that living room, a place filled with festive cheer and false smiles, and confront the people who had been manipulating him for years. I knew what would happen next. He would tell Sarah and her parents about my sacrifices, about how I had been paying them mortgage all along. The comfortable, entitled life they had so casually taken for granted would be exposed as a fraud. The perfect Christmas they were so proud of would be shattered into a million pieces. The minutes ticked by, each one filled with a silent, tense anticipation. My phone finally rang again. It wasn't just a call, it was a desperate plea. When I answered, David's voice wasn't filled with anger. It was raw, broken, and full of regret. "Mom," he choked out, his voice thick with tears. "I am so sorry. For everything. I didn't know." He explained how he had confronted Sarah and her parents. He told me that they had confessed to their manipulation, to their constant whispers about me being a burden. The perfect Christmas was over. The guests had left. The house, which had been so full of laughter just an hour ago, was now filled with shame and accusation. My heart ached for him, but I couldn't give in yet. Not fully. "You didn't know, David?" I asked, my voice holding the weight of years of unspoken hurt. "I told you I was coming. I was so excited. But you dismissed me. You said you weren't expecting me. Was it so easy for you to believe the worst about your own mother?" He was speechless. He finally understood. His family wasn't Sarah's parents. It was me. His real family was the woman who sacrificed everything for him, not the one who manipulated him. He told me he was cutting all ties with Sarah's family. "We're done with them," he said, his voice now firm, a new kind of resolve taking root. "You're our family. You're the only family that matters." That was it. That was the moment. The revenge was complete, not because he was ruined, but because he was finally willing to be honest. The mortgage payment was a tool, a way to get him to see the truth. I told him I would make the payment. I would save their home. He tried to thank me, his voice still full of emotion, but I cut him off. "There's one condition," I said, a new power in my voice. "From now on, you will know. You will know that your home is a gift from your mother, and you will never, ever take that for granted again." The climax of the story wasn't in their downfall. It was in their redemption. It was in David finally seeing the truth, in him finally choosing the family that loved him unconditionally. My Christmas was now a quiet victory, a day of profound healing. I sat alone, but I wasn't lonely. My son had returned to me, and that was the greatest gift of all. The phone call ended, and I was left in the silence of my home. The Christmas decorations, which had once mocked me with their false cheer, now felt like a quiet, respectful presence. The revenge was complete. My son, David, had finally seen the truth. He had chosen me, his mother, over the perfect, manipulative family he had been trying to impress. But the victory didn't feel like a celebration. It was a profound, quiet moment of closure. The past few weeks had been filled with a cold, hard resolve, but now a wave of sadness washed over me. This wasn't something I ever wanted to do. My heart ached for my son, for the pain he had to go through to see the truth, but I knew it was necessary. I had to let his perfect world crumble so that he could see its true foundation, a lie built on entitlement and manipulation. The real moral of this story isn't about the revenge, it's about the nature of love. My son had loved me, but it was a conditional love, one based on my silent support and financial sacrifice. The moment I stopped giving, his love, his relationship with me, was exposed for what it was. True love, the kind of love I had for him, is not transactional. It doesn't demand a price. This was the hardest lesson I ever had to teach him, but it was also the most important. He had to lose his home to find his way back home, to me. I'm now on a different path. I'm no longer the silent giver, the invisible supporter. I am Lita, a mother who has reclaimed her dignity and a woman who is finally living for herself. Our relationship has a new, healthier foundation built on honesty and respect, not on secret payments and false appearances. This Christmas, I was alone, but I wasn't lonely. I knew my son was on his way back to me, truly back to me, for the first time in years. Sometimes, the greatest gift you can give your children is the most difficult lesson to learn. You don't have to keep them from falling. Sometimes you have to let them fall to find their way back to you. My journey is just beginning.